Alright, hi everyone. So this is going to be the first in hopefully a series of videos going through how you can start producing your own music pretty much as a beginner. So I'm going to be explaining what I'm doing with the software. I'm going to be using only free plugins as well as a free DAW. Got Reaper on the evaluation license here. And I'm going to be explaining a bit of the theory behind how we create melodies, chord progressions and things like that. So for this video, we're just looking at setting up a loop with 3 or 4 parts, like bass, chords, melody, maybe a drum part. But we're not really looking to create anything in a specific genre. So we're going to be trying to stick to principles that are applicable to all genres. And in future videos, we'll go back over and look at making some of the parts more interesting and maybe a little more genre specific. All right, so let's jump in. So first of all, I'm going to want to create a track. So I'm going to right click here. And then I already have some templates set up for Reaper. But I will just create a new track. And if I'm working with MIDI, which I'm going to be, so virtual instruments, I'm going to want to do a couple of things here. So I'm going to right click on this record arm button. And I'm going to want to change this probably to record MIDI overdub. So this is going to be more useful if I'm using a MIDI controller. In this tutorial, I'm just going to stick to inputting notes straight into the piano roll. But if I'm using a controller, this will allow me to loop a section and record multiple parts over the same section. All right, and then I'm going to want to change my input to MIDI so my MIDI controller works as well. All right, and now I'll change this. I'll name the track bass. And I'm going to want to put an instrument here. So, oh look, I've already searched it. So the first free plugin I'm going to show you is this one, Iota Mini. So it gives you this nice, simple interface. And you got enough presets here that you could make music just with this plugin if you wanted to. So I actually like this 808 sound, so I'm just going to keep that for my bass. If I click this arm button, I can play using my controller and just get a sense of the sound. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and create a bass line. All right, so first of all, I'm going to set up a loop in the song. So I'm going to drag across the top here for 4 bars. So it's going to be a 4-bar loop. And then I'm going to press Control and then drag in here to create a MIDI event where I can put my notes. I've already got the loop switched on here, so meaning when I press play, it's going to loop that section. All right, so now I'll double click on this and I'll get my piano roll. And I'm going to be working in this C2 to C3 octave, so I'm going to hit Control, zoom on the mouse wheel. So I'm mainly looking at that, and then I'm also just going to mouse wheel up here to zoom into the section I want. Because if you don't really zoom the piano roll, it can get a bit overwhelming to look at that big of a grid. Okay, so first thing I'm going to want to do here is turn on key snapping. So if you're not super familiar with a lot of music theory, scales and chords and things like that, it's a good idea to have this on, and then you can choose a scale. It's already got the one I want, so you choose a root note first of all. So I'm going to go C and then natural minor. Yep, that's what I'm going to use. So minor scales are going to give your song a bit of a darker or sadder sound. Major is obviously going to be happier. And then the 3 minor scales all have a bit of a different flavor. All right, so what key snapping is going to do is when I can just click and drag to put notes in here. I'm going to make notes that are a bar long each. And key snapping is going to mean that when I move this note, it's going to only go onto the notes of that scale that I had selected. And this is going to be more useful when I go to start creating chords, as you will see shortly. All right, so I'm going to just draw in some more notes here. All right, so I've got 4 bass notes for a bass line. So each one's a bar long. Alright, it's very simple. Probably not in this video, but in a later one, I will come back and do something to make this a bit more interesting. But right now, this is just going to function as like the foundation for my other parts. So we can go ahead and close this piano roll. And then I'm going to duplicate this track. So right click, duplicate. And then this one on top is going to become my chords. All right, so first of all, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of iota. And I'm going to add another free plugin called Splice. And Splice is the plugin that hosts Spitfire Labs, which used to run in its own plugin. I think you can still run it. And it's a really good selection of free instruments, especially for kind of atmospheric soundtrack type of stuff. So if I go to the Discover section, search and click on free. Let's just go across so we can see all of them. Alright, and it's got all of this stuff. So there's a lot of like actually really good sounding instruments in here. So this is really a must-have if you're looking to do electronic music production, I would say. So I think I want to use this. And the other good thing about this is you only need to download what you want here. So you can see some of these I don't have. Alright, so I think I want a pad from here. Yeah, I think this is probably what I want, this one. Let's just turn that bass off. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this S to solo that track. So I'm only going to hear that. And obviously that's too low because this is my chord track. So I'm going to right click, drag select, and I'm going to go up 2 octaves here. Cool. Okay, now to create my chords, what I want to do is I'm going to create the simplest kind of chord, which is called a triad. And the way to make a triad is we want to add a third above each of the root notes. So these are going to be my 4 root notes of the chords, and then another third above that. So a third is when we go from a note in the scale, and then we skip a note and go to the one after that. So say my note is C, so I'd skip the D and go to the E flat. Like so. Skip the F, go to the G. So you always got to skip one note in the scale. Alright, and then it's going to be a G and a B flat. Okay, so you can see each one has 3 notes, hence the name triad, and they all have a note of the scale in between each note in the triad. Alright. Let's see that with the bass. Alright, that's pretty nice sound. Alright, now to create my melody, I am going to right click and duplicate this again. And then we'll solo this for now. And I'm going to use another free plugin this time. So this one is Analog Lab by Arturia. This is another really great free plugin. It has a nice interface and also a lot of presets. So if I go up into the preset browser here, you can see just like if I go into keys, see more. You can see I've got 308 just for keys, and there's a lot of like some really good professional stuff in here. You can upgrade this and then get even more, but there's already heaps here, so I would suggest you just get this and then see if you like it. But I'm just going to go with like a piano sound here. Turn the reverb and delay up, maybe. Even more. That's enough. Okay. Now to turn it into an actual melody, I'm gonna again right click, drag select, grab the end of one of these notes at the end and just bring them back so they're only a beat long. And then we're just gonna spread the notes out like this. So then we just get one note at a time. And what you call this is a broken chords. So I've just taken the chord and broken it up. And it's one of the simplest ways to create a melody layer. Put the other parts back in. Might try that up an octave. Something right up in there. So my notes got moved. Okay, I think that works though. All right, so let me just see. I'm going for time here. Okay, so in the next video, what I will look to do is actually go and make these parts a bit more musical. So right now I've got an outline, but for the next one, we'll look at making them a bit more interesting and effective. But before I leave this here, I will just quickly add a very simple drum part in. So again, we're going to use, let's bring this to the bottom. We're going to use Iota Mini again because that has drums on it. We'll just use this trap kit 1. That's kind of loud, so I'll just turn that down a bit. Yeah, that's, I don't quite understand why Reaper does that. It's probably something I need to check. And here I just need 1 bar. Drums are up here. I don't need key snapping because I'm doing drums now. Alright, so kick, clap, closed hat, open hat. And some different effects there. Alright, so I'm just going to go kick on 1, clap on 3, open hats on the closed hats on the 8th notes. And an open one at the end. Alright, and then if I just grab the end of that section and that, normally that would loop automatically, but it didn't. Alright, so I'm just going to control drag across, control drag. Alright, that'll work. Okay, so now I have a loop, so I can use this as sort of the basis to start building like a real track. But before I do, I'll need to go back and improve these parts, which I will do in the next video. Hope to see you there.